Good day, everyone. My name is Eyitayo Olayemi. I'm not going to spend too much time introducing myself. The conversations we're going to have today will give me an opportunity to kind of speak briefly about the different things that has to do with me. I think it's important to mention that the thoughts I want to share today, these are my personal thoughts. They are not Bible, they are not law. Perhaps, a few people might disagree with some of the things I'm going to say, but these are learnings from my personal journey, and I hope that at least one person, if not everyone, at least one person on this webinar will be able to take something and find it useful. This is my favorite quote in the world. I put it almost in every presentation now, and it's a quote by Sir Winston Churchill. And I'll just read through it and, speak on some elements of it very, very quickly. To each there comes in their lifetime a special moment when they are figuratively tapped on the shoulder and offered the chance to do a very special thing, unique to them and fitted to their talents. What a tragedy if that moment finds them unprepared or unqualified for that which could have been their finest hour. I'm just going to let you guys read it to yourselves just for next 3-5 seconds. Okay, I'm hoping that you're ready to yourself, and you are able to get some meaning from it. The very key I just wanted to speak on, which is number one, is special. I think it's important to understand that life is a combination of different moments. Some moments will be, more important than others. Some moments will be more, you'll be happier in some moments than others. You'll be, different moments, a combination of moments. However, there are very pivotal moments in our lifetime where the decisions that we make really go a long way to determine the course of our future. Many of us, probably have recently made some very, special decisions, and those decisions happen in very special moments to you. So the conversation around moments is very, very critical, and it's important for us to be able to identify moments. Mostly, even when it comes to the relationships that we find ourselves in. The other thing I want to touch on is the chance to do a very special thing. So it's not an ordinary thing. It's the opportunity to do something very special. And this special thing is unique to you and fitted to your talents. And it is so important to kind of grasp that, wholeheartedly, to understand that when we are faced with those moments and we get the opportunity, it is pretty much designed for us. I've met people who situations where I felt like, I cannot thrive in that situation, and I see them do really well because that moment, that situation is unique to them and fitted to their talents. The other thing is being unprepared or unqualified. I'll focus on unprepared. I think that, regardless of where we find ourselves, it's important to understand that we're on a journey, and I'll speak about journey during the course of this conversation, that, every step of the way, there is something that we need to take away from that moment. There's a learning, there's an experience, there's an understanding, there's clarity, no pun intended, that we need to take away from, that from that moment. And of course, the finest hour, being able to, take advantage of or show up when these moments present themselves. Ultimately it becomes our finest hours. I'm just going to talk about some of the things I've been fortunate to do, or I'm fortunate to currently do, because again, I am not where I want to be, and I'm sure that everyone on the call, we're all not where we want to be yet. So just like you guys, I'm also on a journey. I guess that's why I said at the beginning that some of the things I share you might not agree, but this is a journey that is unfolding for every one of us. I'll speak on the top right corner, nucleus, which is a a digital agency that started with two partners. Today, and I had the opportunity to lead that business, for about 24 months. And in that time, was able to take the business from zero to $1 million, depending on the exchange rate you're looking at, whether it's the black market or CBN rates. It's over $1 million, and that also gave me the opportunity to be able to work on some of the biggest brands you can think of. I've been doing digital marketing now for over a decade, and in that time, I've had the very rare privilege of working on some of the biggest brands in the Nigerian market, and even on a global scale. While running Nucleus, one of my biggest challenge was, finding talents, because I realized that when hiring people, someone comes in and they say that they are a digital strategist, or they say they are a content strategist, and then, a week in, 2 weeks in, you start to realize that this person is not content anything, it's not digital. Then you have to start investing in the person from a business standpoint, which is fine. I have nothing against it. But when you hire people, there's a baseline expectation that you have in terms of what value they bring to the table. Now, that need of talent in the market, which, I've spoken to some of my colleagues in, some of the, institutions in the market, from Google to Facebook and some of the big ad networks, and it's the same. That challenge of talent within the digital marketing space it's the same, and that's what led me to starting the Digital Masterclass, which is an e-learning platform purely for digital, not just digital in terms of advertising or marketing, but digital as well when it comes to e-commerce, personal branding, and so on and so forth. That's a business we just recently launched. We're kind of still working through the business model. We're actually currently putting together some of the modules and curriculum and all. Very, very exciting journey, and I'm super excited about that project, especially because I have a thing for teaching, which I found. I think that stems from my about 10 years of being a pastor. That's a different conversation as well. So yeah, the Digital Masterclass. And then there is Thinkly. Thinkly is a platform on which we are having a conversation today. This is talking about Thinkly today, or speaking on the platform of Thinkly, is like, it's almost like this was not meant to happen. The starting Thinkly was supposed to be something that would happen 12 or 18 months down the line. The idea was to focus on the Digital Masterclass for now. But again, when the opportunity to, speak with Nifemi on Clarity Sessions came, it just made perfect sense to be able to do this. So a very big thank you to Nifemi for the opportunity. This is our inaugural, session. So basically, Thinkly is a platform for millennials, just like Motely Inspires, the owner of Clarity Sessions. To be able to provide millennials the tools and resources they need to succeed. That's purely what it is, whatever that means. And again, it's a journey, and we are excited about the journey, and we're moving forward there. We're excited to see what happens. Then finally, there's Babies First. Babies First, the business I started with my wife, and we're very excited about it. She's very passionate about it. It's really it's really within the healthcare space around nursing mothers and babies. There's a lot going on in that area. Malnutrition, child mortality rates, and so on and so forth. And that's kind of where we want to build a proposition around. Very exciting stuff. We're looking forward to what that brings. We recently signed an exciting partnership with one of the biggest global brand in that category. We're excited about that as well. So that's me, and that's the journey, right? But the truth is, that's not the full story. That's not the full story. I kind of leapfrogged into the exciting parts. To move forward, I'd like to just take you guys back a little bit. Can anyone tell me, this is the snapshot of an area in Lagos. Can anybody just put in the comment section where they think this is in Lagos? I hope that I'll be able to.
You can see. So I said Badagry. Someone else said Ojoelegba. Oh, And he put it in the song. They know my story. So we have Surulere. This can't be Surulere. Wow. You're bougie.
Any other thoughts? Any other guesses? So let's just cut to the chase. Babs was right. Jadisola as well was right. Surulere, even though in Nigeria we claim Surulere, but some people tell us that we're not Surulere, but that's fine. So I think yes, it's Ojuelegba, and this is Lawansin Itere Road. I'm sure if I ask that question, like where in Ojuelegba is this, I'm sure probably no one will be able to answer that question. What is the point of this? So somewhere here, I'm going to, so this end is the Ojuelegba bus stop, and if you move further down, you are approaching Lawansin. So this is the Lawansin Interior Road, and on both sides you have streets adjourning, and so you have Clegg, you have Karimu, you have Ibido, and so on and so forth. What is the point of this is that Eyitayo Olayemi used to live somewhere on Karimu Street. Oh man, good times. I mean, good times. Somewhere on Karimu Street, which is barely about between 50 to 100 meters to Ojuelegba bus stop, and I used to live in a one room, one room. Is it a one room apartment? There's one room. I'm sure you guys know what they call Face Me, I Face You. I think everybody on the call, I think we're all Nigerians. So, and I lived in that room. It was about the size of a king size bed. I didn't say that we had a king size bed in there. The room was about the size of a king size bed. So myself and my best friends, three of us lived in that room for a few years. And this was just after we were evicted from where we were staying before. This is really, really exciting times. And, one of the things that was remarkable about this experience and living here was I always just kind of knew that, that this cannot be it, hopefully. I always knew that. And I always used to just pretty much beg for an opportunity to show that I could bring something of value to the table, and the opportunity presented itself when a few years later, after staying on Karimu for a few years, and I got the opportunity to work in a digital agency in Lagos here at the time. And that was my first real job. This was 2010, by the way. So this is not far long ago at all. This was 2010. And I got that opportunity, and I'd like to think that I was able to deliver on what I believe that I was able to deliver on. Why is this important? It's important because I wanted to be able to set a context for where I'm coming from to where I am now, so that everyone on the call, we can have like a proper context. So I'm going to dive into the conversation about doing hard things, and I kind of I captured it, in these 4 phases. The first phase is to embrace the journey. Number 2 is to be grateful for the privilege. Number 3 is to seize the opportunity, and number 4 is to build a legacy. Now, again, like I didn't even. The truth is, this deck is not. It wasn't intended for presenting to anybody. This is really like a documentary of my journey, and I'll just take us through it. So the first part is embracing the journey, and I think that this is really important, because what happens is a lot of times when we find ourselves in a place or in moments that we are not really happy about, or it's not what we dreamed of, or it's not what we planned for, the tendency is to lose faith and be fixated on getting out of that moment. And I think that sometimes it's really important to pay attention even while you are on that journey. Very, very important in my opinion. that you pay attention even while you're on that journey, because there's something about that journey that will be very, very relevant to where you are going to. I'll give you an example. Living on Karimu, face me, I face you with, under those conditions, sincerely gave me gives me a bigger appreciation for people you would call, people you would refer to as in data points as bottom of the pyramid. Their lifestyle, the culture, the behavior, the expectations, and so on and so forth. And that has really played a major role, even in my career as an advertising, practitioner. That's on one end. There are different areas that I could reference, but it's really important that as individuals we embrace the journey that we are on. I on the back of embracing the journey, I want to talk about goal setting versus enjoying the process, and it's still along the same line. I see that there's a lot more, content about goal setting, set goals, smart goals, there's a lot more content about that, and it's great, versus content about how people can enjoy the process. And I think that is equally as important as setting goals. It's one thing to set a financial target for a business. At the end of the year, we want to be able to do 10 billion, right? It's another thing to ensure that the process, the journey to achieving those set goals is as remarkable, is as exciting, is as rewarding as achieving those set goals. So I think that as individuals, I think it's really important that absolutely, we will find ourselves in those moments where we feel like, yo, this is not where, or this is not what I want to, this is not where, or this is not what I want to, this is not where I expect it to be. And then we are fixated on being able to, set those goals and come out of those situations and so on and so forth. And it takes away from being able to enjoy the process. One of the things that I like about, pro athletes is that you typically find that, these guys, a lot of times you find them that when they are in the gym or working out, they always have, music on. The truth is, to be able to keep their body in shape and to perform at optimal level, it's a hard task. It's a very difficult task. It's like setting a goal to lose weight, or to do a 10 billion in turnover or whatever, or to live a happier life, or whatever the goal may be, and not enjoy the journey to achieving those goals. In their case, one of the things they do, there's a concept I think is referred to as, habit crunching or something like that. So you find that a lot of them in the gym, and I know some of us who work out do the same thing. We listen to music while we work out, and that's a way of trying to enjoy the process of working out. I've experienced it in the few occasions that I've worked out. You realize that when you listen to music, it allows you to kind of power through, the reps or the routines or whatever you need to do. And it might not be music and working out. For some people, it's even music and studying or whatever. There's also the people where, it's coffee drinking and reading. I've seen cases where people who struggle to be able to read a book, but they combined the pleasure of taking coffee, or that they get from taking coffee, and they use that, they take advantage of that pleasure to also feel a new habit, which is reading a book. So I think it's really important that as individuals we kind of figure out a way to enjoy the process to achieving the goals that we have set. So it's really important that we embrace the journey, enjoy the process. The goals that we set, they are, the process to achieving those goals is equally as important as setting those. Because the truth is, if you're not enjoying that process, that's when you get discouraged. That's when you faint along the way. That's when you give up. But when you are able to figure out a way to enjoy the process, you realize that achieving those set goals is even easier. The next thing is to be grateful for the privilege. Now, I don't want you to misunderstand, when I say privilege. And when I talk about privilege, to be honest, I will take you back to, Ojueleba. I'll take you back to Lawrence and Interior Road. And when I say to be grateful for the privilege, I mean be grateful for the fact that you have a shelter over your head. You have shelter. Be grateful that you have an education. Be grateful that you have healthcare. And why this is important is because when you operate from a point of gratitude, you realize that you are more affectionate. You realize that you are more compassionate. You realize that you care about other people more, and you see why all this is important to when we get into the nitty gritty of doing hard things. When you learn to function from a place of gratitude, that takes you into a place of abundance and care and love, and you feel more compassion towards people. You feel more affection towards people. And I think it's really important that as young people, as young professionals, as millennials, as the case may be, we start to develop, not we start to cultivate and develop this attitude of being grateful for the privilege that we have. Sometimes I've worked with team members who probably for some reason or the other are not happy about something on the job, and they start to the energy that they give is not the most healthy. And one of the things I said to them was, listen, like I get it, we're not where we need to be in terms of what your expectations are, but at least be grateful for what we've been able to do. Because I pride myself on the fact that we are able to create an environment for talents to thrive in the organization where I was working, which is the digital agency. So it's important for us to cultivate and develop that, mindset or that attitude of gratitude, so that it opens up our heart to be able to care for other people, to be compassionate towards other people, and so on. And you see how this is relevant to doing hard things. Now, we're now getting into, this is the third phase of seizing the opportunity. And I put opportunity in quotes because it doesn't necessarily mean that it's been given to you on a platter. So we've talked about embracing the journey. We've talked about being, grateful for the privilege. Now we're talking about seizing the opportunity. Now, and I put that in quotes because it doesn't necessarily mean that, there is, it's been given to you on a platter. And you see what I mean by that now. One of the case studies, I think that the idea of doing hard things is really the bedrock for some of the most remarkable, innovations that we've seen in on the continent, in Nigeria, on the African continent, and I dare say across the globe as well. One of the case studies I love is the case study of Mo Ibrahim. I'm not sure how many of us know who Mo Ibrahim is, but in the late 90s, when Mo Ibrahim first conceived of setting up a cell phone company in Africa, people said he was, people said he was nuts. Everybody said Africa is a basket case. It's a dangerous place. It's full of dictators and so on and so forth. In fact, some people laughed, at the idea of setting up a cell phone company in Africa. So in 1998, Mo decided to start the company Celtel with 8 employees, no infrastructure whatsoever on the continent at the time. As a matter of fact, even the infrastructure for landlines, talk less of the cell phones, was in a dismal, state. So no infrastructure, no funding, because like you can imagine, banks weren't willing to give money. Raising capital or raising funds wasn't as commonplace as it seemed to be today, with the likes of the venture capital firms, the incubators, and so on and so forth. So no funding, and of course great challenges with logistics, healthcare, and education. What that meant was, in places where there were no roads, Mo had to figure out a way to transport, whether it was the staff or it was machinery or whatever the case may be. In some cases, he actually built roads. Healthcare and education, especially for his team, was, he had to provide that as well in, locations where that also was not, available. Fast forward 6 years later, 5.2 million customers across 13 countries, over $600 million in revenue, and over $145 million in net profit. A year later, in 2005, he sold the company for 3.4 billion. Now, again, please do not focus as much, because I know obviously in the conversations around startup and we throw these numbers around, we tend to focus on that. That's not really what I want you to focus on. What I want you to focus on is, for a second, imagine, what this man must have dealt with in trying to build, a mobile telecommunications industry in a continent like Africa, and with the challenges that presented itself. Imagine for a sec the sacrifices that must have taken when you think about the fact that there was no infrastructure, there was no funding. And then when you then fast forward to 2019, based on the last data that's available, that I was able to get my hands on, Africa has a very sophisticated mobile telecoms industry. The likes of MTN, Safaricom, Globalcom, and so on. Altogether, 965 million mobile phone lines, projected 4.5 million jobs by 2020, 20.5 billion in taxes, and to think that added to the African economy. This wasn't easy. Facts. This definitely wasn't an easy fit. But I know that every time we put together these kinds of case studies that we talk about these things, it might seem far-fetched, which is why I want us to be able to, we'll talk about some of the local case studies when we get into the final part of building a legacy. And, on the back of Mo Ibrahim's case study, I wanted to quickly segue into some of the biggest challenges. And I think it is impossible for you to be able to do what Mo Ibrahim did, or any other entrepreneur, by the way, or anybody at all who might not even be celebrated. You might even know a few people here or there who are making remarkable impact against all odds in different places. What I need you to understand is that it's impossible for you to do these kinds of things if you are not, if you don't care about people, if you're not compassionate, if you don't function from a place of gratitude, from a place of abundance, from a place of compassion towards people. For him, it was really about, how can I deliver communications between, the young person who is in the urban area with his grandmother or his mother who is in the rural area, without having to commute from, the urban area to the rural area. It was about, opening up the African economy in the best way that he could think of at the time. So there's a bunch of challenges in Nigeria and across Africa as a whole. And I think that, when we think about these challenges, these 14 are the areas that, some of the reputable institutions on the continent have identified, and it's urbanization, education, infrastructure, healthcare, climate change, governance, job creation, and so on and so forth. Women empowerment. There's so much that can be done across all these areas where we find challenges, and I think I hear people say things like, oh, why is there so much talk about entrepreneurship? Everybody cannot be an entrepreneur. I agree with you 1,000%. I absolutely do. But when you think about the challenges that exist on the African continent, and you layer that with the fit that people like Mo or for example, companies like Tolerant, the makers of Indomie, and how many people that have been employed, how many industries have opened up, it's ridiculous. Like it's very, very mind-blowing. And when you think about that, you realize that we don't have enough entrepreneurs yet. So there's never feel like, if you feel like, oh, I want to be able to start my own thing, I want to be able to, start a business, employ labor, create prosperity and so on and so forth. Please, I don't want you to feel like, no, entrepreneurship is now fashionable. No, that's not what this is about. There are real great challenges in the country and on the continent at large. And we need a lot more entrepreneurs to step up to step up, excuse me, to step up and, start to do things, start to, open up industries, start to create jobs, start to build institutions, create prosperity. I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking within urbanization, what are the next game-changing traffic navigation app starts in Lagos? Or if Nigeria's housing shortage was alleviated through 3D printing and sustainable design, what if somebody was able to do this? Like, I mean, please, if you have a friend, okay, let's do it this way. If you have a friend or a sibling or anyone in your circle who wants to start a business, who wants to start anything, please, I want to encourage you to encourage them, okay? Because the challenges that we face as a country, as a continent, they are very great. And I think that we need a lot more entrepreneurs to step up. We need more bold entrepreneurship on the continent, which is why I'm super excited about some of the people that I'm going to talk about very briefly in terms of the things that they've been able to accomplish. When it comes to job creation, I mean, data is there. By 2035, Africa will be, I think, I think the working population on the continent will be about 1 billion, right? And the question is, when it comes to the challenge of job creation, could the very people who will need the jobs in the future be the same ones to help create them, right? Could that be possible? Could that be possible? When you think about education, imagine if a global renaissance of student-centered learning began in Africa. What could bringing e-learning to rural villages look like at scale? And some of these things are already being tackled by different people, young people, old, whatever. But like, there's not enough people out there trying to solve these problems. Now, it would be impossible for you to think this way if you are 100% only concerned about yourself. Like, you think about it, like, it's unlikely. It's unlikely. Maybe, but it's unlikely. Which is why talking about embracing your own journey, talking about being grateful for the privilege that you have, the privilege of education, health, and so on. Which is why all that is those are very important prerequisites to talking about seizing the opportunity and talking about the case study that we've seen and these different challenges and the possible solutions that could exist for them. I touched on this while I was talking very briefly, which is the idea of creating prosperity and building institutions. Like, when you think about these two things, like, this is what it really comes down to, right? As we solve these problems, and bear in mind, I mean, these companies are not only solving problems, and they have built very profitable enterprises along the way, hugely profitable enterprises. They have created multi-billion-dollar industries, employed millions of jobs, employed millions of people, created opportunity like that. These two pillars is what it comes down to: creating prosperity and building institutions. Because what we've seen, especially in a place like Nigeria, is that if the institutions are not built, it makes it even more difficult. Which is why the idea of identifying governance as an area of great challenge, where we need more bold entrepreneurs to try to make changes in those areas, is very important. So thinking about it across these two buckets, creating prosperity and also building institutions, is very, very important as we think about doing hard things. It's not, I guess, I mean, when you look at the title of this webinar, you already know that the premise is that it's not going to be easy. The premise is that it's not going to be easy, but I think that it's absolutely doable because we've seen those case studies. Finally, it's about building a legacy. So we talked about embracing the journey, being grateful for the privilege, seizing the opportunity, and building a legacy. I'm super inspired by the story of a number of people in the Nigerian market that are doing very remarkable things. Onyeka Akuma of Farm Crowdy, Bolaji Johnson of Cakes and Cream. That one, the Cakes and Cream one is the, and I again, and I was very intentional about citing some of the case studies you see here, whether it's the Cakes and Cream one or the Place. I'm sure. I mean, I'm not. I do not think that anybody on this call who has not eaten food from the Place. I mean, I don't know. But I cited those particular businesses intentionally because it might not just be, it doesn't have to be entirely about tech, right? It doesn't have to entirely be, what technology can do. I mean, these are your good old brick and mortar businesses. Of course, technology can enhance, the operations or their efficiency and so on and so forth. But primarily, these are classic brick and mortar, businesses. And these businesses are huge businesses. They have employed labor, they have created prosperity. I mean, when I think about Cakes and Cream and the journey for that business, but Bolaji Johnson, when I think about, I mean, I'm sure we're no strangers to Shola and Ezra and what they've done with Paystack. I remember reading the headline from TechCrunch about, I think a few months ago. And I think for me, that headline about, that round of funding wasn't so much about the dollar signs because it meant more to me in that moment than that. It meant that, regardless of the staggering, challenges that we face within the market, these types of, things are still very possible, So, and these are just people that I'm sure there are a ton more people that are doing really remarkable things. Think about the jobs that have been created across Cakes and Cream, The Place, Paga. Think about what Paga has done in terms of creating small and medium-sized businesses. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Think about the businesses that Paystack has enhanced by the solutions that they've created. Think about the farmers who probably didn't have, much of a hope at some point until Farm Crowdy showed up and was able to create a market for what they were doing. And I think for me, like this is the mindset that a lot more people need to have within the market, within Nigeria. And I want to challenge everyone on the call. I mean, I'm not saying, resign or leave your current day job and then, I want to become an entrepreneur. But in whatever shape or form, is ultimately about living a life of impact, right? It's about living a life of impact. It's about, how can I make an impact within my, my circle of influence? How can I make an impact? This, please, I beg you, please, I hope that, we are able to walk away from this session just kind of having a new appreciation for living a life of impact, so that because of you, a lot more people have food on the table. Because of you, a lot more people have jobs. Because of you, a lot more people can enjoy prosperity. Because of you, new industries are opened up and new businesses and new entrepreneurs can also spring up because of you. I mean, the case studies are rife of people who have their day job, but are still able to, make an impact in any shape or form. I was having a conversation with Nifemi just before we started, and he was saying something about social enterprise and that being something that he really wanted to be a part of at some point. He's already doing that in certain capacity, but he wants to be able to do a lot more of that. That is what this whole session is about. It's about impact. Like this is really about, encouraging and inspiring ourselves to be able to take on some of the world or some of the continents, some of the country's biggest challenges, and starting to develop solutions for them. And the truth is that you don't feel like you have to build these solutions from scratch. The fact is, Nifemi also mentioned earlier something about when he started, it's not like he had all the speakers lined up. And that's the thing about, there's the concept of the pool, when you create something, it's almost magical that it starts to pull the resources, the people, that you need to be able to, make a success out of what you have started to do, especially when it's something that is driven by impact. So my encouragement is that we are all able to, find those areas within, our local communities or personal lives or business or jobs, and start to ask the question around, how do I live a life of impact? This is one of my, favorite videos, and I hope that you guys, hear it when I play it. It's a video that, I always like to listen to. I actually posted it on my social media a while back. And I think it's based on the narrative, it's based on the idea that it's not going to be easy. I mean, when you think about the phrase itself, do hard things, it suggests that it's not going to be easy, right? So I think that this video for me is one of those things I go to kind of inspire myself when at different moments in time. So I'm going to play it for you guys now. I'll probably play it twice just to be sure that you guys hear it.
It's not easy. If it was easy, there'd be no Kerry Washington. If it was easy, there'd be no Taraji Henson. If it were easy, there'd be no Octavia Spencer. But not only that, if it were easy, there'd be no Viola Davis. If it were easy, there'd be no Michael T. Williamson, no Stephen McKinley Henderson, no Russell Hornsby. If it were easy, there'd be no Denzel Washington. So keep working, keep striving, never give up, fall down 7 times, get up 8. Without commitment, you'll never start. But more importantly, without consistency, you'll never finish. Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. So keep moving, keep growing, keep learning. See you at work.
Okay, please, guys, just let me play it one more time. I mean, I'm not even just playing for you guys. I'm also playing for myself. I'm just gonna play this one more time.
It's not easy. If it was easy, there'd be no Kerry Washington. If it was easy, there'd be no Taraji Henson. If it were easy, there'd be no Octavia Spencer. But not only that, if it were easy, there'd be no Viola Davis. If it were easy, there'd be no Michael T. Williamson, no Stephen McKinley Henderson, no Russell Hornsby. If it were easy, there'd be no Denzel Washington. So keep working, keep striving, never give up, fall down 7 times, get up 8. Without commitment, you'll never start. But more importantly, without consistency, you'll never finish. Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. Ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. So keep moving, keep growing, keep learning. See you at work.
Yeah. So I mean that I think I'm this for me it like really just sums up everything. And I hope that we don't forget like it ultimately starts from us being able to embrace our own personal journeys. Not just fixated on the goals that we set for ourselves, but also trying to enjoy that process of achieving or of achieving those goals, right? That's the first part. The second part is then being grateful for the privilege of healthcare, the privilege of education, the privilege of information. I mean, you're here on the webinar. I mean, like the privilege of being here in this moment, the privilege of education, the privilege of shelter, and being grateful for that. And why that is important is because it is from being grateful for what you have that you open up yourself to be more compassionate towards the next person, that you open up yourself to be more mindful about, what other people might be dealing with when we look at those different challenges that we're going through on the continent or in the country. It is by being grateful that you are able to then reach out to the next person to try to make an impact. Number 3 is about seizing the opportunity, and seizing the opportunity in the sense that we are in an era where there are more entrepreneurs created like never before. And of course, while technology is driving that renaissance, it doesn't just have to be, tech. We've looked at some of the case studies that are, primarily brick and mortar. Tech can enhance their efficiency or their productivity or whatever, but they are primarily brick and mortar. So, there we can, as individuals, start to figure out in what areas. I mean, when I think about Babies First, the ideal of Babies First for us is to be able to create what we refer to as, a shop right for nursing moms, and most of the products that we want to shelf are clinical products, just so that we are able to provide the best of healthcare to nursing moms, and do the little that we can to help with, malnutrition with babies, do the little that we can to help nursing moms through that process, and of course, along the way, create jobs, create prosperity, open up industries, and build a wildly profitable business even as we do that. And then finally, it's about building a legacy. The concept of building a legacy, I think for me, becomes even more remarkable, when I started having kids. I'm done having kids now. I have 3. And, it was in those moments of being a father that I realized that, the conversation about legacy started to mean a lot more to me. But the point is, it doesn't have to be that for you. Every step of the way, it's about building a legacy where you are right now. Are you currently working a job? What is the legacy you are building for yourself in that place? When you exit, what is going to be said? Are you, whatever or find yourself, what kind of impact are you making, to the extent that what legacy are you building? And the beauty of being able to build a legacy is that technology makes that even easy. Just by putting out content that someone can find useful is a way of building a legacy into this world, right? Because the beauty of content is that it can be timeless. So it doesn't matter how far in the future, someone, a teenager or young executive, stumbles upon your content and that becomes relevant to them. That is your legacy, and I think that really is what that really is the way I look at it when I think about doing hard things. Is that it's ultimately about living a life of impact, and by thinking about it through these 4 lenses, it starts to make that task even a lot more easier. I think that, I hope that I've not bored you guys too much.
It's not easy.
So that's about what I have for you guys today. Rather than say thank you, I'd say see you at work.